We're going to be going through everything you need to know before going into this new Kendrick Lamar album called Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, dropping this Friday. We're going to take you through a complete guide of what happened so far in the rollout, some information you might not know. So Universal Germany spoke about the album. We got some different clips from different producers that have spoken about the concept, and we're going to be going through all of that in today's episode. So subscribe if you have not already. But Lou, let's start off with the album rollout.
Let's get into it, starting off with Kendrick Lamar's new thoughts letter, which he posted on August 20th, 2021. And this was cool because he created his own website, oklama.com, and in that website you'll find the yellow folder called New Thoughts. And it was really cool to see because he gave us an update on how he was doing over the last couple of years. So it was cool to see where his head was at and to know that he was okay, because he's not someone that really pops his head out all that much. And he also mentioned that this was going to be his final album with TDE, kind of marking the end of an era. So that was super exciting news. And then you fast forward 8 months, in April 18th, 2022, he drops another folder. This time it's a black folder called For Immediate Release. And in that, he actually announced that his album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, would be dropping on May 13th, 2022. And that was massive because people were dying to get that release date for so long. And speaking of May 13th, 2022, we are going to be doing a live album reaction with our entire community on Patreon. You guys can access it through the link in our description. It's going to be awesome because we do these every week, but this one will be probably the biggest event of the entire year. So we hope to see you guys there. But to keep on going with this, you move on to May 3rd, 2022, and he posts this picture, which is pretty mysterious because he's in this library or a studio, and he's holding 2 CDs. One of them says Morale Master Copy. The other one says Steppers Master Copy. And he's holding these 2 CDs, which makes us think that this new album is going to be a double album. So how did you feel seeing that, man?
Well, listen, everything leading up into this was super mysterious, and I've said that multiple times on the show, but that just confirmed to me like how hard he was going to be going with this next album. And what's so cool about it is Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, that title alone gives you so much anticipation going into the new release on Friday, and then you find out he's going to be attacking the double album concept. And I'll give you an example, all right? Take it back to, let's say, Outkast, or even, let's say, the Beatles. The way that Kendrick has been setting up his catalogs, and I saw this on Twitter, is in perfect synchronization with all of those. And, it's crazy to see how those, our fans, let's say us, we're falling in love with a new catalog that's being developed. And attacking the double album, I mean, we have very few in the hip-hop genre that have really hit like that, and seeing this album maybe being compared to All Eyes on Me, or let's say Life After Death, that's a big statement for Kendrick Lamar at the moment.
It's high risk, high reward. I mean, if he connects with a double album, it's difficult to do because lately we haven't seen too many artists pull it off. The last one I've seen is maybe Big Crit in 2017. He did a great job at it, but to put out 20-25 songs that all hit and to be able to reach that Life After Death, All Eyes on Me level, that's tough. But if someone could do it, my money is on Kendrick. But moving on to what just happened, Kendrick dropped The Heart Part 5 on May 8th. And obviously it's the 5th installment in the Heart series. And it probably won't appear on the album because the 3 previous Heart songs did not make the studio album. So it's cool to know that we're still going to be able to go into this album with a fresh mind and fresh ears, because it's kind of just a teaser. And that song was amazing. He flipped the Marvin Gaye sample of the song I Want You, and he has 3 killer verses. So that's as great of a return as I could fucking expect, especially it being his first solo song in so much time. And even just the concept of it, that he was shifting perspectives and, telling you that I am the voice of this generation. I'm representing all of us. That was a beautiful fucking moment.
Absolutely. And I think that's what's so key about the song is you could see how Kendrick Lamar's, pen game has somehow improved over the past 5 years. That's what's, mind-blowing to me, is that this would be one of the best written songs on Damn. And now I want to see how that's going to be translating into this double album. And, what's crazy too is that there's also this feeling that there's going to be a lot of perspectives, being, I would say, mapped out within this new album. I think that the whole concept of perspection, needs to be able to, come back into music. People need perspective in their lives, and to be able to get that from an artist like Kendrick Lamar would be a different level. But all right, let's go into the collaborators, all right? Because such a big talking point of the Kendrick Lamar album. We've done so much speculation on the podcast already about who do we think is going to make the producer list? Who do we think is going to make the features? And what's crazy is that we don't have a track list right now, and we don't have any confirmed at the moment, but there's ones that you could feel are going to make this this album, and hopefully they end up doing it.
I think the only collaborator you could say is confirmed would be Thundercat, because he did an interview in 2020 where he said that he has done some work on the new Kendrick album, which is amazing because, we saw how fantastic his bass lines were on To Pimp a Butterfly, so that's pretty awesome. Apart from that, like you said, no official collaborators announced, but we could speculate that Baby Keem is probably going to be on it, maybe Tana Leone as well. 2 artists from PG Lang. It would only make sense given how many collaborations Kendrick has done with Baby Keem on the Melodic Blue. Also, rumors of a Kodak Black feature after he tweeted, "Y'all won't believe who I'm in the stew with right now. Well, both of us goats." And that was on December 10th, 2021. And he was in California at the time for Rolling Loud. And people are speculating that maybe he linked up with Kendrick in Compton or somewhere in the California area. Apart from that, Anderson .Paak and Westside Boogie also reposted the album announcement on their stories. That's a possibility. Apart from that, on March 8, 2020, Nas actually posted a picture on his Instagram where he was side by side with Kendrick holding a newspaper, a PG Lang newspaper.
That's massive.
These are 2 of the best storytellers that we've ever seen in the game, so to see them link up would be fucking amazing. But apart from that, also rumors of a Prince feature after it was hinted at in the recent podcast that Kendrick Lamar and Dave Free were interviewed on for, I think it was called The Big Hit Show. And that was pretty interesting because Prince had done some recordings for To Pimp a Butterfly on the song Complexion, and he also did some additional recordings for Kendrick, so maybe those are going to finally see the light of day. Also, rumors of an Andre 3000 feature. And in terms of producers, we have Boy Wonder, Cardo Got Wings, Soundwave, Terrace Martin, DJ Dahi, and The Alchemist that all reposted the announcement on their stories. And these are guys that have worked with Kendrick before, so I wouldn't be surprised if they are featured and credited as producers. And we also know that Beach, which is a production duo that has, made songs for Baby Keem and Tana Leone, they just produced the Hard Part 5, so it will also be possible to see them have some production credits. But to be totally real with you, bro, I really couldn't care less if there's 10 features or 0 features on this album, because I know that it won't affect the vision and the concept all that much. So this is one of the areas where I don't really care what happens.
I don't care what happens either, because that Kendrick Lamar is so calculated with his track list, especially where certain features are being placed, and he just won't force a feature either. That's another big thing, is he always goes in with this refreshing concept, and then, okay, the features have to be able to add and not, create the track list, if I said that properly. And what's also cool about this is if you go through those producers, some of the best Kendrick Lamar songs have been produced with the ones that I've reposted. I mean, looking at Fear with Uncle Al, that's one of my favorite songs of all time. So if we could get that level of production again on Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, which I do think will happen, I could guarantee you this is going to be one of the best produced albums of the whole entire year.
Give me 3 features that you want to see, though.
3 features I'd want to see,
You have to
honestly.
handpick it.
Okay, so now for final predictions, let's say for the features, I'd really want to see Westside Boogie, Anderson .Paak, and then after that, I would probably say Nas. I think those are my realistic ones. How about you?
I would definitely go Nas. I would go Andre 3000. And I would have to go with Lupe Fiasco.
Well,
I want to see some lyricists really come in here.
Imagine that, because
cool.
they've always been compared, who's the best lyricist within the 2010 decade, and it would be awesome to see them come together and actually create a track and have some material.
That would be bar heavy as fuck.
It would be massive. But okay, speaking about material, let's go into the album direction, because such a big talking point again of any Kendrick album, right? Like what type of sonics are going to be presented, who's going to be doing what is the concept behind this? So Kendrick Lamar's sound designer that goes by the name of Dion Freely, who helped write the Damn, who helped with the Damn tour and his Day in Vegas performance, teased that Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers would be a theater play. So going off of that, how do you feel about that, and how do you think he'll be able to do it?
So this is what happened. So he posted a picture on his Instagram story where he's engineering a song in Ableton, and the title of that file is KL, Kendrick Lamar, Mr. M, Mr. Morale, and TBS, the Big Steppers. So it's KL, Kendrick Lamar, Mr. Morale, and the Big Steppers, Act Number 1. That's the name of the file, which tells us that this album might be a play, and it might have different acts, and it might have different scenes represented by specific songs. And that's pretty impressive, because we know that Kendrick Lamar viewed Good Kid, Mad City as a short film. We know that To Pimp a Butterfly was kind of put into that format of a poem. So it's cool to see Kendrick expand on these creative mediums. And if he was to create an album that has acts, that would be fucking mind-blowing. And we've seen other artists do it before. We've seen Denzel Curry do it with Taboo. We've seen Kid Cudi do it with the Man on the Moon series. But Never seen Kendrick tackle that, and that would be fucking exciting.
It's cool to see the way that he's pushing the boundaries with this album. And when he was talking, with ID Magazine back in October of 2020, he had this to say. He wants to execute a new sound, and he says he'll never go back to making a GKMC Part 2, which is so interesting because the intentions, let's say, with what Kendrick wants to present, it's always something new and it's always something super innovative. Not only that, but we know back in 2020, the whole Billboard write up by Bill Word said that this next album would be rock influence. I'm not sure if that's still going to be a thing at this point, but who knows? We could see even different production styles that Kendrick's never really tackled
Yeah,
before.
that's a big possibility. Also, after we had Universal Music Group that put out a website article, and this is actually UMG Germany, where they put up an article and they described the album as an exploration of fresh new wave influences combined with his signature sound. And new wave music encompasses various pop-oriented styles from the late 70s and 80s, and that could include punk rock. It could include synth pop, soul, and I think that's what Kendrick might go with here is bringing up production that will have a lot of live bands, live instrumentals, and maybe it'll be reminiscent of that Motown era where you have these layered jazz instrumentals. Maybe something that's similar or comparable to Pimp a Butterfly. That's a possibility.
Well, we already see it on the Heart Part 5, sampling Marvin Gaye's I Want You, and
that's a big hint.
That's a major hint as well, and that's one of the best songs that I've ever created. And the way I was actually put onto that song was through the Defiant ones. I was watching it, and there's a part where Dr. Dre is playing with those vocals in the thing, and he adds his own drums to it and everything. Sounds fantastic. If you guys haven't seen it, please do so. But it's interesting, man. This is super interesting because now I could kind of see the album direction. I could understand where it's going. I could understand where he's at with his writing. Maybe you could start understanding what type of soundscape's going to be done. You understand the album format. You see everyone reposting it and who's really talking about this album and who's getting in the mix of the conversation. I think it's happening, man. It feels like a Kendrick Lamar
It does,
rollout.
and it's just so cool that, based on the Hard Part 5, we know that Kendrick has so much to fucking say. I mean, again, he hasn't been, president in 5 years, so there's so much that's happened in the world that he probably wants to give his thoughts on, so it's going to be cool to see. But let's now go on to our album predictions. Starting off with first week sales. Always a big talking point, and Hits Daily Double have projected that Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers will sell between 350 and 400,000 copies first week, but I think they're kind of lowballing it a bit, bro. I think he's easily selling over 500,000 copies first week. I mean, yes, he doesn't have a massive single like Humble going into this album, but it's the hunger, bro. It's the fucking desire that the fans have to hear this music, and I mean, I really do think that he will put up massive numbers here.
He will. Not only that, but the whole concept of having a double-sided album now changes the playing field. It gives him more opportunity to, maybe slot certain songs in that would get him, more sales or whatever it is, but do it in a way that it's super discreet and that it actually plays into the track list. Because think about it, a double-sided album has a lot of playing room. There's a lot of stuff to do on each side of that album, and that's why I think, the numbers will be higher. If you would have told me maybe a 12 track, album, okay, I could see it being between 400 and 450, but double-sided, I think he's doing over half a mil first week.
He's securing way more streams than he would have if he put out, let's say, a 14 or 15 track album. But let's speak about how we actually think this album's going to play out, because that's always fun to speculate. And I mean, to be honest with you, I think that Kendrick is going to take us on a journey with this album. I think it might be one of his artsiest album, and also something that's going to be super conceptual as well. I think that when you're looking at the literary devices that he's going to bring in, he'll bring in the metaphors, he'll bring in that vivid imagery that we love him for, he'll bring in some alliteration and just everything that makes him the poet that we have known for him to be. Apart from that, I think that the messages tied into each song will be very powerful. And what I love about Kendrick's music is that he's always thinking about how his writing will impact the listener. And even though he comes in with these heavy messages, it never sounds preachy with Kendrick. It always sounds like it's perspective based, and he's not telling you to do anything, but he's giving you kind of his recommendations or his solutions to certain issues. And I love that about him. So what do you think he's going to bring in terms of a concept? Do you have any ideas based on a title or anything?
Just perspective. I think it's going to be, super heavily perspective based, and he's going to be trying to show you how different situations, deserve a certain type of treatment, and let's say in contrast to other situations. And I think that's what he has to go in with. There's so many people right now that need a fresh perspective. They're looking for Kendrick's voice to, help them out of certain situations and to give them new life. And I think that's what's going to be beautiful about this album is it's going to have that same, essence to the Pimp a Butterfly, maybe, where like it hits your soul, like that sort of energy. And that's what I really think might happen with this new album.
Absolutely.
And I think what's cool about the acts and the double-sided album, it's actually, as you said, it's going to be artsy, but it might be one of his most cinematic, albums that we've seen since GKMC. So think about that as a whole, all right? You're getting maybe some of his best writing in years. You're getting a concept album, double album with all kinds of run space. You know what type of energy he's on based on the Hard Part 5, and now you're adding the cinema to that. That could be a very dangerous fucking album.
And we also know that it's the end of an era, right? This is his last album with TDE, so I don't know, it kind of got me thinking like maybe this will play out kind of like a musical will, in the sense of like him laying out certain principles that might guide the youth for the future, because that's what Kendrick is concerned about right now. He's concerned about legacy. He's concerned about what messages do I want to leave behind for future generations to pick up on, and I think that he's going to execute on that. I think in terms of a concept, he might, portray an alter ego. Maybe Mr. Morale will be a character that he portrays for the entirety of the album, or maybe he'll shift perspectives throughout the entire project like he showed in the Hard Part 5. Either way, I know there's going to be character arcs. I know there's going to be plot twists mixed in there, and I do hope that there's connective tissue from one song to the next like we saw in his previous albums. That would be fucking amazing. And I mean, apart from that, maybe he'll even drop a book alongside this, like we saw teased in that picture.
I'd pick that up as merchandise. Absolutely. I pick that up as merchandise. And I also do think that regardless of all the speculation, you could expect a quality album. So guys, listen, let us know how you're feeling about this new Kendrick album in the comments section. And honestly, thank you from the whole NFR team, because it's been a ride, guys. We've been covering this Kendrick album since last year when we first started the podcast, and fuck it, we're finally at the week. It feels absolutely surreal. And as Lou said at the beginning of the episode, live album reaction will be going down this Friday, 12 a.m. Eastern time, guys. Come bump the album with us. Super fun. It's super interactive. You guys are going to be able to, give your takes while we're listening to the songs. We have votings for each, for each and every single song that's played. And of course, you guys get to kick it with us and listen to the new album. So subscribe if you have not already. Thank you so much for watching this, and we'll catch you in the next one.